We will do intensives just for single men if somebody is not in a relationship.
And what would be the focus for those 3 days for that single man?
A single man's intensive is on the origins of sexual addiction, to go back in his life and to see what things have contributed to the sex addiction. So there's a lot of family of origin work. There's a lot of trauma work that takes place there in identifying traumatic experiences that have happened in childhood. Occasionally I hear guys saying, "Well, this happened to me. Some boys pulled me down into some bushes when I was 5 years old and performed a sexual act on me, but that really didn't bother me." And yet, as we get into therapy and do some work on it, I find that not only did it bother them, but it was one of the contributing factors to their sexual addiction.
Well, and we certainly know that in general, men tend to deny things that happen to them.
Especially if it's the same sex acting out. And often what happens for both men and women, there's going to be a natural curiosity around sex. There will be some sex play that involves the opposite sex and the same sex. I think that is more the norm rather than the exception.
So your focus is not completely on the past.
It's not strictly on the past, but also looking at the present. What do they need to do to develop a recovery plan that has some real teeth in it? How do they put together a recovery plan that they can go off and work on their own once they leave the intensive environment? Because for those 3 days that they're there, there's a great deal of support that they receive. They feel encouraged. They feel that they're gaining strength. And yet when they leave that intensive environment, they go back to the real world. And in the real world, they need a recovery plan that will take them through the difficult times that are ahead.
So that sounds like the kind of immediate future when they leave the intensive. They've lost some support, and what are they going to do? What about the long range? What about finding a partner?
That's a good subject, finding a partner. If someone is single, I think there's always an assumption in our world that if somebody is single, that there's something wrong with them. And yet there are many people who are single who are happy in their singleness. They do not need to be in relationship with someone else to feel complete or to feel like they're normal. However, I do know of a number of single men that I work with that want very much to be in a relationship. And the only thing that they know about relationships is what has not worked. So we will do some work on helping them identify what kind of relationship they're looking for, what kind of person they're looking for, what are the qualities that need to be there, what are the must-haves, what are the deal breakers, what's a realistic criteria that they can put together for finding a partner, whether it's a short-term partner or a life partner.
What about online dating?
Several years ago, we would have turned our noses up at it and said, absolutely, don't consider doing any kind of online dating. The reality is, in our world today, that may be one of the better ways of meeting someone. However, they need to have some good boundaries in place, need to be very careful in selecting a reputable dating service or a dating site, rather, and to get an introduction to someone. And then have some good accountability with a sponsor, with perhaps a therapist, with accountability partners as to what's going to take place during the dating relationship, what does healthy dating look like. So I think it is a process, and the reality is that online dating is something that many single people will try and successfully use to find a partner.
So it may be important for the sex addict to carefully edit his profile and what he might want to say about himself on that site.
The profile they put on prior to recovery may be significantly different than the one they'd put on in recovery. And what they're looking for in a partner would be completely different.